Alright, so here's the next example here. So notice that the x now is on the right side. Okay, here's your x term, and here's the other term that's a 10, and then you have 56. So again, our goal is to leave x on its own. So we want to get rid of this minus 2 here and this positive 10. Alright? So one way, again, the approach is that, so let me highlight this really quick. So you have the x term here, and the one without the x term, which we called a constant, we have it here. So suppose you want to get rid of the x term for the 10 first. So notice how it's a positive 10, and you want to make it a 0. So in order to get rid of a positive 10, you want to subtract. Whoops, let me use a different color here. Hold on. Let me erase that. Okay. You want to subtract the 10. And if you do it to one side, you do it to the other. So you could subtract the 10 here. Okay. Again, you want to keep it, you want to use the equality properties here. So then here, we get a giant 0. This goes away. And then we combine these terms together. And 56 minus 10 will give you 46. So you have 46 is equal to, and then keep in mind that this minus makes this to a negative, because remember we learned KCC, so we have to add the opposite. So we have to bring down this minus sign with the 2, so we'll have here negative 2x. Okay. Now here's the thing. They're multiplying right here, so the opposite of multiplication is division. Again, because our goal is to leave x on its own. So we're going to have to divide. Now keep in mind this is a negative 2. So we have to divide by a negative 2 on both sides of the equation. Okay, so what that does is that it creates a giant 1 here. So you have 1x, and then you divide these two here. So you divide these two. 2 goes into 46, I believe, 23 times. And then you have to remember that a positive divided by a negative will give you a negative, so you get negative 23. Okay, this is just one approach that you can solve this equation. But then suppose you want to get rid of this negative 2 first. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back here. Okay, suppose you want to get rid of this negative 2 first. Okay, so again, I highlight my terms here. Here's my x term. Okay, and here's my term without an x, right? My constant. All right. So then what we want to do, since it's multiplying by a negative 2, right here, since it's multiplying by a negative 2, we want to divide by a negative 2 to make it a giant 1. But here's the thing. If I divide by a negative 2 with this term, I must make sure that I divide by a negative 2 to the other terms. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by a negative 2 on each term. Okay, so if I do that, half of 56, let me calculate that really fast. 56 divided by 2, that gives me 28. But you have to remember that a positive divided by a negative gives me a negative, so it should be negative 28 equals 2. And then I work this piece out, and 10 divided by 2 gives me a 5. Okay, and then you get a negative here, because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And then right here I'll get a positive, so I put a plus sign. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive, that's why I got the plus sign there. And then we get x. Okay, now my next thing is that I want to go ahead and get rid of this negative 5. So I want to make it a 0 since it's a negative. Okay, what I have to do is add its opposite, which is a positive, to make it a 0. And whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay, this becomes a 0. It's gone. So then I get equals 2. Then I bring this down. Okay, I bring on the x. And then I work this out here. Negative 28 plus 5, that is a war, right? And the negative team won by 23 points, so I get negative 23. Okay, so two ways to do it. I mean, it's up to you which method you like. Okay, Like I said before in class, this is the popular method here. But again, I like this method because 2 goes into every single one of these. So it's up to you which one you use.